more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only he manages well? It is not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants, and do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Our actor is self centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He's like the retired businessman who loathes in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Politicians and reformers who who are who are should sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The
Okay,
outlaw.
would you stop right there for a minute? So this is of course this is written and published in 1939, but do you see how it applies to today? I mean, we just look at the
Absolutely.
world around us and we're like, they're talking about 2024.
Absolutely.
And yeah, isn't it that way? And the other thing too, for me, it became very powerful, the self-seeker resting satisfaction out of things,
Mhm.
the retaliations, all of that when I was drinking, and even after I got sober, until I learned this new way of living. And then it goes on to say the actor is self-centered. Well, then I eventually became an actor and I worked in television and radio, for years. And then as I read this more and more, I realized, oh my God, they're talking about me because I was always directing from the chair, arranging the lights, everything, the cameras. I'm like, people used to get so mad at me. They go, "Would you just shut up and let us do our job?" And that happens in here sometimes. All right. Uh, Over to you, Sam. You want to pick it up from there and read?
Yep. Excuse me. If the rest of the world would only behave, the outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, or our self-pity. Selfishness, self-centeredness that we think is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made
Oh, you just broke up.
decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we alcoholic. What? Sorry, you're cutting out.
Oh, it's
It might
okay.
be me.
I am gonna turn your I'm gonna stop your video so
Okay.
you can keep reading. It'll be better.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. So our troubles we think are basically of our own. Sorry, I just lost my. There it is. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without His aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness, much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. This is how and why of it. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are His agents. He is the Father, and we are His children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was a keystone of the new and triumphant art through which we
Okay.
pass to freedom.
Yep. Stop right there.
Mhm.
So now, what Bill Wilson hit upon when he wrote this, um, they were originally they were using the Bible, they were using the Book of James, they were trying to piece this thing together, but he hit on something extraordinary, um, which is this. This was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. What is that? Uh, that we had a new employer and we started working for this thing called God. Well, who the heck is God? We sober up, we're like, oh no, but this isn't this isn't so much like church. It's more like, in this way, AA becomes a kind of complete mental health program. We have to get out of this sort of alcohol-driven selfishness. Because I think what happens with alcohol is we drink it and it narrows us in. We become more and more narrow, more and more you know, focused on ourselves, and everything starts to come from us. And this changes it. And it asks us to reach out for some kind of help. And for our purposes in this meeting, we often describe God as love, the power of love. Well, what is that? Here, it describes, in many ways, talking about a new employer. And I think for me, I had to really be beaten down in destruction, not so much from the alcohol. After I sobered up, my life was still kind of a mess. It's like, and this is the part where it gives us some freedom. And here it comes right here on the top of page 63, one of the most important parts of this book and program. It says here, when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had to have a new employer. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans, designs. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. So, I mean, I go through this every day. How am I doing? Am I seeing what I can do to contribute to life, or is everything about me? So that's a question, that we can ask ourselves each day. I actually recommend to people like you guys to read these pages every day for 30 days, to let it sink in, to let it digest, to figure out what is it exactly that they're telling me to do. Here they kind of framed it in religiosity, but we can reframe it to meet our own needs. So here it says, as we felt new power flow in, this is the prayer, okay? And it's something you can ask for. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. And when I read this, I was just blown away, because I noticed that I did feel this new power flow in. I was feeling peace of mind. And my life was starting to become successful. And this conscious of his presence, I did feel, the presence of the Lord or God or good inside of me. It started to flow into me, kind of like some people call it a fresh wind. Some people call it, it could be like the just warm orange flowing through my entire body from my fingertips down to my feet. And I felt that I was changing. I was being changed as I did this process as kind of a prayer and meditation. I was going to let the good flow in. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Let, let this flow in. It says we were reborn. This is AA's conversion experience. It's AA's born again experience. Okay. It is the conversion from self and self-centeredness to this thing called God. We were reborn. We're, born again anew, into a new spirit, into a new life. And sometimes people fight that, or they try to dance around it. We don't dance around this here in this meeting. There's no dancing. Dancing kills you. Asking and letting, let the sunshine come in. Let the spirit flow into you and heal you. So are any of you guys feeling that? Are you feeling any of this, Rachel?
Yeah, I think as I said the other day, there's without alcohol in your body and thinking through the self-centeredness of it and the impact on others, it gives you peace.
Good. At this point, Lance will edit in, let the sun shine in from the what is it called? Aquarius. Yeah, the play. Over to that's for later, post-production. Rebecca, how about you?
Yeah, this it's like this gave me bumps today. It really made me reflect on all the stuff that came up with again, I always felt blindsided, at work. Where'd this come from? Well, it was me. And I would retaliate and get angry, and there was always one person that I found something to get angry at that person. But
Okay,
actually,
so here we are focusing on this, the presence of God and the higher power and having this new way of life. Sam, anything, are you getting anything out of this last part?
Yeah. So this passage specifically gave me like a sense of clarity. It's a good point for reflection. It really has opened my eyes to like not just my behavior, but how I became a different person under the influence of alcohol.
And this takes us back. I'm going to mute you there a little bit, Rebecca. This takes us back now. So now this is the prayer. This is the completion of the third step. And we're now going back. We're going into a new way of living. And that new way of living is what's described here. So for the three of you, I want you guys to read this every morning, 60 through 63. So we can do this third step prayer if you want to, or we have something called Tasha's prayer. Tasha rewrote the third step prayer. She was a 28-year-old young woman from Las Vegas who came to this meeting for a while. And she didn't like the King James prayer that Bill Wilson wrote. So she wrote this prayer here, and we put it in chat. And you guys can copy it and save it. And we liked it so much, we used it. Thank you for putting that up. Brian got it. Way to go, Brian. Thank you. So here it comes. Are you guys ready? You can say this. You can say this prayer with me, Yalis. I'll let you unmute. Okay, so here it goes. God, I pray
God,
for
pray for
your
your
will to be
will to be
done in
done
my
in my
life
life,
Hello.
in this
and
world.
this world.
I'm
I'm
not
not
in
in
control.
control.
You
You
are.
are.
Even
Even
though
though that's
that's
something hard
sometimes
for
hard
me
for
to
me to
admit
admit and
and
accept.
accept. I'm releasing what
Anything
comes
what comes
next
next
into
into
your
your
hands
hands
and
and
trusting you
trusting you
fully.
fully.
I want to
I want
step
to
into
step into
whatever path
whatever
you
path
lay
you lay
before me,
before me, even
when
when
it
it looks
looks different
different from
from
what I
what I
thought
thought I
I
wanted.
wanted.
I know you have
You have
bigger
bigger
plans for my
plans for
life,
my life,
so I
submit
submit my
my
life to
life
your
to your
will.
will.
Amen. So
And
that's the modern day version of the third step prayer. You guys like it?
yeah.
It's good.
it's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. So anyways, that's the third step. And congratulations. Go forth, be healed. What I was going to say is, so let's just reflect on this until tomorrow, and then tomorrow we'll get going on the third step. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, you're welcome. So next, now we have a couple people who are going to do the fourth step, and if you would excuse me here for a minute, raise your hand in chat. We'll get going on the fourth step. Let me see here. Lower hand. Okay, Sam. And then send me a text, co-host, so I know who they are. Excuse me, lower hand. Okay, good. So it's going to be Jesse. Who else is who's the other one there? Where'd he go? Preston.
There is no other
Who
one.
else?
It's only Jesse.
Well, who else was supposed to show up here today?
That was it. Oh,
No. There were other people. Do you know, Matt? Who else was going to show up here? Lance, do you remember? There were 3 people that were going to do it. Oh yeah. Hey, Jesse, do you remember who they were? There
I'm
was
pretty
you
sure
and
it was just me is all I know. So
no, there was somebody
Yeah,
else.
that's all I wrote down.
That's all you remember?
Yeah.
I know there's going to be somebody else. Hang on for a minute. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. So Patricia, you did your 4th step. Heriberto, Cassie, Sean, Debbie. Wait a minute, Debbie. Well, we already did the 4th
That's
step with
10.
you, right?
Yeah, she's 10 and 11.
Okay. Stacy, we did yours, right? 4th step. Da, 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 da. Sanita, I had somebody. I pushed them right through onto the 3rd step, 4th step. Maybe not, but I thought so. Da, da. Rebecca, 27. Rebecca, where are you? Weren't we going to do the 4th step with you? Oh no, or we just did it. Never mind. Sorry, 3rd step. Okay. Forget about it. Okay, we will now move to the 4th step. And if you can put it up, just one person. So Jesse, unmute, stay unmuted. All right, here we go. And now let's read. Hey, Matt, you want to help read?
Sure.
So you're going to turn to page 63, Jesse.
Mhm.
You have your book. Did you get an AA book?
I actually just ordered the AA book and the 12-step book like 2 days ago. But I've got the PDF pulled up.
Okay, so I'm going to kick it over to Matt and ask Matt to read something. I'm sorry about the confusion. I thought was one other person. Usually I'm not wrong about these things. Someone will jump in and say, "Oh, wait, I was supposed to do the 4th step." I'm like, "Fuck, where the fuck did you say this?" Okay, so here we go. Next, we launched. Over to you, Matt.
Yep. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us have never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. He did exactly the same thing. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out flaws in our makeup which caused their failure. Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us, we considered it common manifestations, its common
Stop.
manifestations.
Stop right there. Okay, Jesse, over to you. Pick it up from there.
All right. Resentment is the #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore. We were burned up. On our grudge list, we set opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations which had been interfered with? We were usually as definite as this example.
Okay, now stop for a second. So here it's showing us now how we're going to do this inventory, and you're gonna see it here in a second. You're gonna write about it a little bit, and usually what I like people to do, look at me, Jess, is do it on lined paper. Do you write or do you type?
I typically type.
Okay, doesn't matter how you do it. These 5 columns that are here, and the first column is we were resentful at, and it lists the person. Here he says, Mr. Brown, his attention to my wife, and what it affects in me are my sex relations and self-esteem. Now, back over here on the left, it says, we asked ourselves why we were angry on the very bottom of this page,
Oh, there
64.
it is.
In most cases, we found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships were hurt or threatened. So he puts down, like, you're going to list everybody that you may have had a resentment at Mr. Brown as an example. Then his attention to my wife, and then what does it affect in me? Okay, so I'll let you keep reading. You could just read down the center of the column. Told my wife of my mistress. I hate it when they do that.
So I'm resentful at Mr. Brown for his attention to my wife. That affects my sex relations and my self-esteem or fear. He told my wife of my mistress. That affects my sex relations and self-esteem or fear. And Brown may get my job at the office, and that affects my security and self-esteem, fear. I'm resentful at Miss Jones because she's a nut. She snubbed me. She committed her husband for drinking. He's my friend and she's a gossip. That affects my personal relationships and my self-esteem or fear. I'm resentful at my employer because he's unreasonable, unjust, overbearing, threatens to fire me for drinking and padding my expense account. That affects my self-esteem or fear and my sense of security. I'm resentful at my wife because she misunderstands and nags, likes Mr. Brown, and wants the house put in her name. That affects my pride, my personal sex relations, and my sense of security or fear. We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. The first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. But with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal, for when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again, and with us, to drink is to die. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison. We turned back to the list, for it held the key to the future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. In that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had power to actually kill. How could we escape? We saw that these resentments must be mastered, but how? We could not wish them away any more than alcohol.
Okay, let's stop right there. All right, so up to this point, we're doing really well. So you're going to take a lined paper like this, okay? Or sometimes people will use like an Excel spreadsheet. I don't care what you use. But so the first column, can write this down, Jesse. Column 1 is going to be who I'm resentful at.
Mhm.
Column 2 is going to be the cause. Column 3 is what it affects in me. And to look for the ideas for what it affects, you can see that in this third column and also on bottom of page 64. Then the next column is going to be my part. What was my part? What did I do here? What literally, what was my part? And we're going to read a little more about that. And then the fifth column are my fears. Do I have any fears in connection with this? Now, there's another thing and I realized that the AA book, when they wrote this in the 1930s, it can be confusing for some people, which is why we try to break it down. You're also going to look at any bad behavior you had. I've had people come to me and say, well, I did a lot of bad behavior myself. I'm like, well, you can write about that too, and it goes on to explain how to do it. They cloak it in this thing called the sex inventory, which is Bill Wilson had apparently a really big problem with sex and also being a philanderer. So he went on forever about that kind of stuff. Not everybody fits into the same category as Bill Wilson. So let's see, where were we here? All right. Different angle. We realized, so I'm going to skip this part. It says here, we realized the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Probably not. And probably a lot of the times, the people that we imagined who wronged us really didn't anything. They were reacting to us being idiots because we were drunk. Okay.
Mhm.
You know, unless you're the kind of person who had a constantly conflicted life with a lot of conflicted people. Apparently, Bill Wilson did, but not everybody does. You know, most of us alcoholics are like, you know, we're drunk, we go to work, we have a hangover, and we're idiots at work, right, Matt? He's shaking his head. Yeah, I'm out. Lance is shaking his head. So I have a tendency to skip over that. Because it goes on all about them. And, you know, it says they're sick. No, they're not. We're the ones who are sick. Okay, here's part 4. We avoid, this is on page 66. We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. Here we go. Again, see, Bill's trying to put the blame on somebody else for our mistakes. No. If we do it, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all. At least God, he goes back into God here. Here we go. Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the others wrongs had done. This is the key part. We resolutely looked at our own mistakes. And here it is. You're going to write about this in my part. Where had I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though the situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other people entirely. Where were we to blame? Okay, there it is. Okay, now the next one, he describes the fear inventory. Now, Bill wrote this shortly after Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave his first inaugural speech in 1932. So he picks fear. You know, the country, America was in the Great Depression. They were afraid of, you know, Hitler was, you know, conquering Europe. Stalin was killing people. And so he comes, Bill Wilson basically rips the whole fear section right out of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's inaugural speech. And then a lot of times in AA, we think that we invented this whole thing. Well, yes and no. And sometimes we have fear and sometimes we don't. Now, I'll tell you something, Jesse, and everybody else too. My fear, I bought into this for a long time. And you go to AA meetings and people say, yeah, fear is a ability. Well, not necessarily. Not everybody is riddled with fear. Sometimes it resolves itself when we get sober. So anyways, we'll just do this fear inventory. Notice the word fear is bracketed alongside. So you're going to do your fear inventory, and what is it that we're going to write about here? Here it is, page 68. Bill Wilson goes into a giant explanation about fear, as though you'd think it was, you know, one of the precepts for life, but it's not. We reviewed our fears thoroughly and we put them down on paper, even though they had no connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. And then he goes on with some other philosophical stuff. He talks about trusting God. Let me see here. We ask God down in the 4th paragraph to remove our fear. And then direct our attention to what he would have us be or do. So basically, if this makes any sense to you, sometimes, we have to make a list of what our fears are. I'm afraid if I keep drinking, I'm going to go broke. I'll lose my house. My wife will leave. I'm afraid that I'm going to end up being a bag lady. Well, not in my case, a bag man, on the street. And no one will love me and I'll be alone forever and I'll die in the gutter. We have all kinds of fears, or I'll go broke, or I would wake up in the morning with irrational fears. So I think they're talking about that. Then back over here on page 69, for our purposes, this is what they call the sex inventory. We are going to skip over this part. Bill Wilson was really obsessed with sex and his own disloyalty. But we can use this as a personal inventory. On page 69, we reviewed a second paragraph down. We reviewed our own conduct over the years. Where had we been? Here it is. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Those are the big questions. That's the general 4th and 10th step inventory. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate? Whom did we hurt? And then it talks about causing, unjustifiable jealousy. Sometimes people will have, like we'll do 5th steps and, someone will have, just their sex life was way out of control. And then they need to do a 5th step on that. Usually men with men, women with women. So anyways, that's kind of the 4th step. And then Lance wrote up a word document. And Lance, if you could send a link to your Word document to Jesse, or Jesse, maybe he could send it to you in your email. Would you send Lance your email? And then he could send you the Word document. It's a bit of a description. Okay?
Yeah, I'll send that to him.
And you'll send it over to him. That's good. Yep. Okay, cool. So anyways, hey, do you get it? So was this too confusing, or do you get the first one?
Yeah, that was a lot, man. I don't know. No, it's good. So
It's pretty straightforward. You get it?
Yeah, I think so. Just a
Well,
matter
if you
of
have any problems, just ask me, okay? And then I'll send you over my phone number. You can text me and ask me. And those of you people that just did the 3rd step too. In fact, I'm going to ask Brian, would you send those 4 people my new phone number in a private text? Okay. And then if you guys have any questions about what you're doing, just text me. Okay, so that's the 4th step. Now, those of you who were new to this and you're wondering, what is going on here? You are in AA class, AA 101, the only AA meeting like this in the world, the only workshop like this. We started this meeting 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, during the pandemic. We've had check this out, 30,000 people come to Newcomers Slipper Step Workshop on Zoom. We've taken over 1,000 people through all 12 steps, and they are sober today. We have about 200 regular people who come here. We have 100 new people a week who come to this meeting. What we do here is we hand deliver to you an AA program. So if you're new or coming back, that's who comes here. Old timers don't come here. I mean, they'll come for a day and then complain and leave. No, not all of them. Jeff likes it. And then we teach you the basic AA program. We'll take you through an AA program in about a month and a half. What is Alcoholics Anonymous? Alcoholics Anonymous is a 12-step process, teaches you how to live your life without drinking. it's a 12-step process, how to quit drinking, stay quit, and have a new way of living. That's all it is. It's that simple. And we can take you through the whole process in about a month, month and a half. You go to meetings today, AA meetings, you walk in, most of them don't do this. Most of them they're discussion meetings about how did your day go? I want to talk about my cat. Well, that's not AA. There's nothing about cats in AA, but we do have Cat Friday here, and people bring their cats in. And today's Dog Thursday, and you notice people showed up with their dogs, so that's always kind of fun. And then we have other days too. So I think that pretty much brings us up for today. This meeting is pretty much over. We covered steps 3 and 4. And then tomorrow we'll get right back to other classroom work. There are and if you're certainly welcome to join us anytime. So I'm going to kick it back over to Matt. You want to read the promises?
Sure. These are the promises on page 83 of the big book. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We will know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone,